if you can name 30 positions, you're better than
The Kama Sutra.
the Kama Sutra.
Glorious! No, I won't give in till I'm victorious. And I will defend, I will defend.
So,
Well, that's fine. We'll get to that.
right, so the gist of this cast is that, I feel like we've gotten to the point now where we maybe need to have names. So I will be Strohn Broman, and you can be Sein Johnna.
Nice. I'll be Sein John. Sein. It's not Sean. It's Sein.
Yeah, exactly. What is so hard about that?
It's Sein Johnna.
It's just like Sein Spicer.
Exactly. Yeah. Sein Spicer or Sein Bean.
Sein Bean. Sein Bean.
All the wonderful scenes of the world.
Yeah, so, what was I saying? All right, yeah, so the gist of this is that
What was your name again?
Strohn Broman.
Strohn. Strohn.
You could call me a wrestling fan, but part of being a wrestling fan is detesting it with every fibre of your being at certain points.
Yeah. I guess.
And the Royal Rumble was, well, it was a little while ago now, but it's kind of the most accessible wrestling event that there is, maybe other than WrestleMania. And I thought, hey, why not get you, Sein Johnna? I think that's what I called you, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I call it. We might have to write this down.
Yeah. I thought, I didn't know if you had ever watched wrestling, but I thought, whether you have or not, the Royal Rumble, it is, because of the nature of the event, it's pretty accessible. Let's see what you make of it, whether you like it, whether you don't, and it'll be, something that we can talk about. So,
Well, for myself, I don't really keep up on wrestling.
yeah.
I did watch it years ago when it was a really, I say when it was a really big thing, but I think it was just because of the age I was.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a big thing among my group of friends.
Yeah, I think it was kind of, the biggest era for wrestling really is kind of the 97 to about 2001 time.
It was the early thousands. That's when you had.
That's when it was making ludicrous amounts of money, and so many.
Who were the big names there?
Well, the biggest one was Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Stone Cold was there around. Who else was?
It depends who you're talking, because at the time it was WWF against WCW. So in WWF you had Stone Cold, you had The Rock coming through.
I was going to say you would have had The Rock, Undertaker.
Undertaker, yeah,
Triple H.
indeed, yeah, Triple H.
All these big names that. Even me, these
yeah, exactly, sort of recognisable. And over on,
I know these names.
Over on WCW's side, you had big names, but they were kind of older, and that's what sort of helped knock them out of business. But you had Hulk Hogan, or Hollywood Hulk Hogan,
Hulk Hogan, yeah.
You had Sting, Ric Flair.
Oh, yeah, Sting. I remember.
You had Macho Man Randy Savage.
Those were kind of like the old guard, really colourful kind of
exactly, yeah. But
80s style wrestlers.
Yeah, but they kind of changed the way that they were, but they were still old, and they were still the guys who were on top, and that caused a lot of issues. Whereas obviously WWF had a lot of younger guys, and that's where they succeeded. I
was surprised how quickly a lot of it came back to me. Like the things that I recognised from when I think I watched one big event when I was younger. It was like a WrestleMania or something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
It wasn't that big a cultural milestone.
It didn't affect my psyche that deeply.
Yeah.
But yeah, I recognised a lot of the tropes, and it's just part of understood culture, I think. Particularly when it's referenced in other TV shows, and you see parodies of it in, say, The Simpsons or Futurama or South Park or something.
Yeah.
And people are doing the kind of wrestling announcer talk and all that. Everybody knows what the tropes of wrestling are.
Yeah.
And it was good to watch it again. And there's always been that kind of uproar about it being, it's fake. It's a fake sport and all this kind of thing. How do you feel about that kind of argument?
The line that most wrestling fans will go along with is, it's not fake, it's scripted. The outcome is predetermined, and so are some of the things they're going to do. But if you think that you could get in there and do a tenth of the thing that those guys do, no, you couldn't. They have to be as fit as a footballer is, an American footballer is, whatever. They have to be 10 times fitter. If you see what they have to do, the amount of professional athletes that will go to try and be a professional wrestler because, that's easy, it's just pretending to fight.
But no.
They drop out because even just the cardio they have to do is so severe.
Yeah.
Because you've got to, you might have to wrestle maybe 2 or 3 times in a day, and that requires you to be basically moving an awful lot. It might not look like it, but there's a lot of movement. And
it is a very physical kind of sport. Well, yeah, I'm going to say sport. Before I get into that, actually, watching it again changed my perspective on this idea of it's all fake. Like you said, it is scripted.
Yeah. Undeniably so. They basically admit it.
Yeah, of course. It's like you look at their Wikipedia and you can and you can just read that things like plot lines and storylines are
exactly.
set.
And even Stephanie McMahon, who is the boss's daughter, her Twitter bio basically says, I'm Stephanie McMahon, I play a bad guy on TV.
Yeah.
And that is how it is basically marketed. They
are characters in a TV
show. A term that Vince McMahon coined is sports entertainment.
That's exactly the phrase I was going to use, because these performers are very athletic. Like they will be in a match for 15, 20, 30 minutes, or like the Royal Rumble, you'll be in there for an hour or so, physically picking people up, throwing them around, and you might say, oh, that's not really a punch in the face, and fair enough, some of them aren't. Yeah. But you still need to be physically fit to take a forearm from a 200-pound man right on the chest.
Yeah, exactly. And you can hear it.
You can hear the thuds of these people hitting each other.
My ideal would be, I'd love to take you to an independent wrestling event and see, when they actually physically hit each other, you hear it and you go, oh, fucking hell. Because you know when there's been contact. And
my favourite one example of that is watching some of the the lighter weight, the cruiserweight guys in the Royal Rumble, because they do a lot of aerial techniques, and they particularly like flying kicking people in the face. And okay, you might say they're not aiming for the bridge of your nose, but that's because why would you? And even if you're going to take somebody kicking you in the side of the neck or the side of the head, the sound that comes off them is incredible.
To be honest, a lot of that sound, if you watch them, they slap their thigh.
Oh, yeah.
But
fair enough.
Even so, they're still... Even to make it look real, you've got to be nigh on a martial artist to get it that close without hitting someone, if that was how they wanted to do it.
Yep.
And, I'm glad I could do it. It could give you an appreciation of that, because...
like you say, the idea of... From my point of view, I'm more into... acting in theatre and on film, and I know what it takes to do some stage combat. Yeah. And these guys are they're incredible. Yeah. They are at the top of the pulled punches, and the amount of space they have between the person who's throwing the punch and the person who's the guy who's giving and the guy who's taking. The amount of space that there is between them.
I didn't want this to sound gay, but damn it always does.
Rippling muscles and tight shorts, and it always sounds so gay.
Shut up, Dad, it's straight, I swear.
I swear, Dad.
Dad, there's nothing wrong with me.
But so the reaction sells it. Yeah. But at the same time, there are some things you don't have to react to. Like if somebody's dropping from a height with 2 knees onto your chest and plowing you through a table. Yeah.
There's some things where if you just watch a slow-mo, you look at their faces, it's just kind of a... Yep, this is happening. I'm not stopping it.
Pain is just part of their job. Like most professionals in the performance industry, as we talked about with Porn Stars last week, pain is just part of the profession.
Yeah, and no amount of oil.
No amount of oil, grease, or surprisingly very wet hair.
Yeah, I've never understood the wet hair thing, and I don't think many wrestlers do either, because I listen to a lot of wrestling podcasts, and there is a lot of talk of some guys, they'll just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go out in a minute for my entrance, but I just need to wet my hair. And nobody really knows what it is.
I think it's a characterization thing. Now, you mentioned on a previous podcast we did that...
your memory's very good.
Well, so is yours if you're listening. If you don't remember, you can go back and listen to it again.
Please do, we need the views.
I want to say Strohn.
Strohn
Broman mentioned that... Broman is the name of your 70s cop alter ego. The name's Broman. Strohn, the Broman.
With my wise-cracking African-American sidekick.
Yes. Of course, because that's how 70s buddy cop things work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You mentioned that there's, because these things are scripted, there's a good guy and a bad guy. You're meant to root for the good guy, and he's usually the underdog.
Yeah.
And he might be shown to be losing or weaker in the first half of the match, but generally will come back with a glorious victory at the end. I think the wet hair thing, especially long wet hair, is a characterization of the bad guy. Because it makes you look less clean. If you've got hair down past your shoulders that's wet and it's just falling across your face, and you turn your head quickly and it goes all over your face, it's the characteristic or characterization of the bad guy.
It's an interesting take. What I would say is, from years of watching it, that's definitely not the case. I think it's just a thing. It's just a thing they do. Right. For me, just the whole idea of them having long hair, it kind of helps sell things better. It makes a lot of impact because it flies back.
Yeah.
Whereas with short hair, you've kind of got to sell it with your face. Long hair will cover your face, but also it'll look good.
So if you turn your head quickly, it accentuates that movement.
I suppose with wet hair, you get the arcing of the water.
It's less of a shampoo advert.
Yeah, you get the arcing of the water just flicking off and stuff, and that can also kind of add stuff to it. Well, I'm glad I could give you that insight into it. We'll briefly just run down sort of what happened. So, first match on the kickoff card was the 6-woman match. That's right, isn't it?
That's right. I didn't write down any of the names because it was really boring.
No, it's okay. That's fair enough. So, you had Becky Lynch, Nikki Bella, and Naomi on one side, and then on the other you had Alexa Bliss, Mickie James, and Natalia Neidhart. They all basically had their own stories. They're all interlinked. It wasn't a very good match. I mean, you've watched more of the kickoff show than I have, because sometimes they'll put a really good match on there, but this was mainly filler, and none of them needed to be on there.
And this was the bit when people were still filing into the stadium.
Yeah,
anyway, so.
In a way, it's a little bit disrespectful as well.
I think so. Yeah, if you were given one of the kickoff matches, you'd be like, what?
Yeah, it would be fair enough if you were, someone who's the actual sort of roster, as it were, is kind of called the card, and there's the lower, upper, and mid card. So your lower card is just people who will be not really doing an awful lot, but will put on matches. Your mid card is, like you saw, the United States Championship and the Intercontinental Championship. That's that kind of level. So people fighting for that belt, and your upper is obviously your big boys. They don't necessarily have to be going for the title, but they'll be the big names.
Yeah.
They can either be with the title or they can be above it. It should be the lower card people who are there, and the women on SmackDown have been doing quite a lot of good work, and I don't know, it felt a little bit disrespectful to put them there, but with it being the Royal Rumble, it is understandably hard because there was a lot of stuff to get through.
There's a lot going on.
And WrestleMania is even longer. When I get you to watch that, I'm going to warn you now, you will skip a lot of it because there's about 6 or 7 hours worth of stuff.
I was going to say, with the kickoff matches, this was 6 hours.
Yeah. WrestleMania is, I'd add a couple of hours onto that, really. It can be ludicrously long. And technically, if you were to watch the whole WrestleMania weekend, as it were, it starts on the Friday with the Hall of Fame ceremony. On Saturday, there'll be an NXT pay-per-view, which is about 2-3 hours. Then there'll be WrestleMania on the Sunday, which is about 7 hours. And then the night after, there'll be the Raw after WrestleMania, which is considered like the best TV episode of Raw that there is, because it's got a lot of, WrestleMania brings in fans from everywhere, so it's a really good crowd, and that's considered the best one. And that is kind of all considered WrestleMania weekend. So you're looking at, there could be up to 24 hours worth of stuff that you could get through in a weekend, which is ludicrous. I like wrestling, and even I can go, that's too much. That is too much stuff, guys.
Before we go any further, perhaps we should, some people don't watch wrestling at all, or the WWE. We should perhaps
fuck them.
Maybe we could just do a brief rundown. So WWE is the owning company, isn't it?
WWE is the brand. It formerly stood for World Wrestling Entertainment. It was previously the WWF, or World Wrestling Federation.
Yeah.
However, now they don't like the term wrestling, so they just coined themselves WWE.
Okay.
They're trying not to mention wrestling, basically.
Fair enough. But within that brand, then you've got, like, is it weekly shows from different
that's correct.
brands?
So you have Raw and SmackDown, Raw being the longest running one, SmackDown the next. And then underneath that, well, you also have other things like Main Event and Superstars, but they are essentially just kind of recap shows with a couple of lower card matches on them.
Right.
And then you've got NXT, which is classed as like a farming system. So the new guys are going to there to develop characters and stuff and see how things play out. Now, it will get in some really big name talent from elsewhere, and that can either just be because they don't have space for them on something like Raw or SmackDown, so they'll put them down there and they'll help, get them acclimatized to, because WWE has its own style.
Its own style of,
which is sort of slower than you would see in other areas. And NXT can be used to kind of wean people into that sort of other way of doing stuff. And it'll be a mixture of people who've had exposure in other wrestling federations, or it'll be people who they've picked out and want to develop, like former American footballers. There's a ex-German national goalkeeper from football who's Tim Wiese. He's currently training there, and he is built like a brick shithouse. He is fucking wow. He'll probably be a terrible wrestler because of it, because it's not great to move around with that level of muscle, but yeah, he's
a big guy.
He's a jacked boy. He's a big boy. Yeah, that's kind of the underlying aspects of it. And then each of those have their own individual talent rosters. So Raw has its own people that it will use. SmackDown has its own people it will use. NXT has its own people it will use. There'll be minor crossing over if it's involved in a storyline. And the story is obviously each brand has its own general manager and commissioner, and they kind of oversee the running of it.
The whole thing.
In reality, the head of it all is Vince McMahon, and he will pretty much dominate all of it.
He tells everybody what's going on.
He's there for every TV taping for Raw and SmackDown. NXT is actually one that's been developed by Triple H, who is married to Stephanie McMahon.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was kind of his baby, because they just weren't developing enough of their own talent, and it's clearly paying dividends because of the amount of people and stuff that's coming out of it.
So then they'll have like weekly shows for each of these brands, and then you'll have these maybe. So some of the titles, like the Royal Rumble is every year, WrestleMania is once a year.
Yeah.
You've got these like big main events where you'll have stars from all three brands will be
there's basically
using different types of matches.
There's four where it tends to be Raw and SmackDown, because NXT is kind of its own entity in a way. But yeah, you'll get the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series, where the rosters will mingle. They won't necessarily fight each other, but they'll have their matches
at the same event.
And there's no, like, it's not just one brand specific like the other events are that are held throughout the year. You'll have SmackDown specific events, and you'll have Raw specific events. And then these four are where they all kind of co-mesh and say, right, yeah, it's all.
It's just to show off WWE as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they're classed as the biggest events because they're the biggest events.
Yeah, they're the biggest ones. Yeah, they've got the most talent there.
They're biggest and the oldest. It's kind of how it works.
So yeah, that was the first match. That was the Raw.
That was the SmackDown
women's match. Next one was the Raw Tag Team Championship.
Yeah.
And this was for the championship belt.
Yeah.
Tag Team Champions belt.
Yeah.
Now, this was a rematch.
Correct.
Because of a disqualification, I think, from a previous match.
Yeah, the story was that on Raw, previously, Gallows and Anderson had thought they'd won the belts, but another referee had come in and disqualified them. They disqualified the other team for interference. Now, the actual match I thought was okay. I think what a lot of people... I mean, I'm happy about it because Gallows and Anderson should have had the titles a long time before now. They've been really misused within WWE. They've been given horrible things to do, like terrible comedy stuff. And WWE comedy is Like, you think we're bad. Whoa, WWE comedy is just, it's the pits. It can just be, when it's bad, it is bad.
When it's bad, it's bad.
And these guys came over from Japan as being sort of lauded as one of the best tag teams in the world with what they could do and having so much charisma. And they were just really mishandled for, it's been a year now, pretty much. And hopefully now they can start pushing them the way it should be into just kind of being just that kind of tough guy persona instead of just being really weird and misused, essentially.
Yeah. So they were. So Anderson and Gallows were fighting against Cesaro, and Sheamus.
Yeah.
And they held the belts.
Correct. Their story was that they had a best of 7 match, which is where they fought 7 times to see who would get the win 4 essentially. Yeah. And the end match was thrown out as a draw, and they were rivals, but they realised that, hey, maybe we're not so different, and they were forced into a tag team.
Work together.
Yeah, they were forced into a tag team, and stories they didn't really want to be, and then it ended up they became the tag team champions. Like, out of nowhere, that's a shocker,
isn't it?
Really, it was just done as a device to. There's a tag team called the New Day who showed up in the Royal Rumble in their individual status, but they held the tag team titles for the longest amount of time.
Yeah.
They overtook a tag team which is called Demolition, and generally speaking, whenever WWE do something like that, it's because they don't like that person or people who held those belts. Basically, Demolition, at least one of them is currently involved in a lawsuit against WWE. Yeah. So what WWE will do is spite them and take away something like the longest reigning thing. Usually like a day or a week after New Day broke the record is when they lost the tag team titles. So that kind of shows that...
they didn't really care. They just wanted somebody else to have the title.
Yeah, exactly. And then...
Didn't they change the design of the belts as well?
Yeah, they always look pretty horrible. They look better now, but they used to look like copper coins. They were awful looking belts.
So they were just like, Demolition don't exist anymore. We've just erased them, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. They'll probably never get mentioned again. In the run-up to breaking the record, there was a lot of talk of, they're coming up on Demolition's record. But ever since then, they're not getting mentioned again.
Now it's the New Day's record.
Exactly.
And it's a new day.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Their music is great.
I think there's a lot of good wrestling music, which is why I like to use it in our intros. And some of it's just terrible, of course, but
some of it is weird.
Yeah. But yeah, Anderson and Gallows won.
So you're glad that they won?
I'm happy they won.
Is that you're happy they're champions?
Yeah. There's always a worry in your back of your mind. This is why it's horrible to be a wrestling fan, because you've got the happiness like, that's really good. They paid the dues. Carl Anderson had never wrestled in WWE. Luke Gallows had, and he'd been given a really bad gimmick where he was a sort of a mentally deficient character.
What?
Yeah. Oh man. 2005 WWE wasn't a nice place to watch.
Oh, goodness.
I mean, that was a time when I wasn't really watching it, but I know kind of what happened, and it wasn't. So yeah, and he then transformed into Luke Gallows, and he became a little bit more edgy and cool when he was with CM Punk, but then he just got let go. He bumped around a bit, and they both ended up in... Well, Carl Anderson worked mainly in Japan, and they wound up together and made a really good tag team. And yeah, they're where they are now, and hopefully they can keep being treated right. And yeah, ideally they get the kind of treatment that they deserve rather than what they have been given.
How do you feel about Cesaro and Sheamus?
I'm indifferent. Cesaro is used wrongly. His issue is that he's from Switzerland. He speaks 5 languages. English is obviously one of them, but it's connecting with the crowd on like an interview or a promo. He's not the best at that, and that is what lets him down. His physical ability is amazing, and he's pound for pound probably the strongest man in that company, because what he can lift and what he can do is insane, and he doesn't look muscly, but
no, the commentators were saying he's one of the strongest.
He's just got pure power. And Sheamus, nobody really likes Sheamus. He's just been one of those guys who's around that nobody likes because he's never really changed. He seems okay, and he can do a lot of stuff, but he's just never really resonated.
Not that impressive to you. All right.
They'll probably break up fairly soon, I would have thought, because
They were hinting at that during the Royal Rumble, weren't
yeah.
they? We'll get to that.
Yeah, so, and then the next match was Sasha Banks versus Nia Jax. You said to me that was a submission match, is that
Yeah,
right?
a Raw Women's submission match.
It shows how much attention I've been paying to it, because I didn't even know it was a submission match. I just thought it was a match. The story going into it.
I was going to say, presumably there's some beef going into it.
Yeah.
Beef chief. Oh, yeah, they did. They showed the flashback where Sasha was... Is that the one where Sasha was on crutches or something?
Yeah, and basically Sasha came in with
knee,
an injured knee. She'd been having a really long feud with the women's champion Charlotte. Her Charlotte's finishing move is the figure 8 leg lock, which does a lot of damage to your legs. And the idea is that, her knee's damaged, that Nia Jax wants to make a name for herself. Sasha Banks is seen as quite a big deal. Attack Sasha Banks, do stuff to her leg. And that was it.
That was that.
Yeah, it's Nia Jax is
terrifying.
She is, and she's very big, but she's the wrestling terminology would be green, which means
she's very new.
Very new and not very she was in NXT and she was brought up way too soon. She
doesn't look like she's got much technical skill.
No. That's fine if that's what you're going for, but you've got to be able to back it up in other ways. And I don't know if she can yet, but she's there to improve. There's another woman who's currently out injured called Dana Brooke, who's on the same brand, who's just absolutely awful, and she was called up way too soon. She can barely do a headlock. It's embarrassing, really. She's got nice boobies though, so sometimes that's all they care about.
So hooray for equality.
Yeah.
All right. So that was the pre-show stuff.
Yeah. Fairly inconsequential.
Not really a lot going on. I mean, the tag team championship belt, that's hopefully a good new storyline for the Anderson Gallows tag team.
Yeah. Ideally, going ahead, it is going to be good for them. I mean, again, the worry is Raw doesn't have a great deal of tag teams in it, which are going to be vying for it. It's why there was a really long program between Gallows and Anderson and the New Day, and that's just what helped make it really stale. And it's why you have to put people together at random like Cesaro and Sheamus.
Yeah.
Then
when everybody finally got into the arena, the sports place or whatever, they started to...
When WWE said, right, you can care now.
Now you should care.
Yeah. First match was Charlotte versus Bayley.
That's right, the Raw Women's Championship.
Yeah. A lot of people...
Charlotte is the reigning champion.
Correct.
Going into it.
Yeah.
And apparently Bayley's like a crowd pleaser. Like a lot of people in the crowd seem to like her.
Yeah, she's like girl next door, plucky underdog. She is kind of what a good guy is called a babyface, a bad guy is called a heel.
She's definitely the babyface.
Yeah, that she literally has a babyface. She has the face of a 7-year-old, and it's confusing.
So later she gets punched in it.
Yeah. Quite a few people said this was a good match, but I can't really agree.
It was alright. I mean, Charlotte just dominated her.
Yeah, a lot of stuff Bayley did. It just felt because this is one of her. Like, she's not been on in the big stage that long. She was in NXT and she was NXT Women's Champion, and her and Sasha Banks had these brilliant matches, which were I know you didn't enjoy the first women's wrestling match, and the second one wasn't particularly great either, but the matches that Bayley and Sasha Banks put on were really good because of how they could get the crowd involved. And yeah, this one, it felt like she was really nervous. Like she, when something's done incorrectly, it's called a botch. She just seemed to botch a lot. Like there were slips and trips, and
there were certain punches or moves that she did which didn't connect, and she didn't sell them.
Yeah, she sort of went to go.
Bless her, Charlotte did her best to try and cover for her.
Charlotte is amazing to say that she never really wanted to be a wrestler. Now she's the daughter of Ric Flair, who I mentioned earlier.
This comes up quite a bit actually, doesn't it? In the whole of this of WrestleMania.
Now
Ric Flair's mentioned a lot.
She only sort of started wrestling about 5 years ago. She used to play volleyball, I think it was, and she just what she can do and the way that she's just made a character is really, really good. What she's been able to do, because like I said, she'd never really wanted to be in wrestling. This wasn't what she wanted to do. She just went along to a tryout with her brother, and they got to try some stuff, and she kind of picked up a liking for it. And took it on from there. And then about 3 years ago, brother died, and she kind of took it upon herself, like, right, well, I'm going to succeed at this for him. And it's why outside of character, or when she has been a babyface, like when she won the title, she'll genuinely cry because, you know, that's kind of why she's doing it. Or the Channel 4 actually recently did a documentary basically about the women's wrestling in WWE, and, you know, just they did a brief interview there, and she started crying, and it shows that, like, she's doing this for her brother. It's not necessarily for her, but she's come to enjoy it and be exceptional at it in what she does.
Yeah.
Charlotte won. How did she win? Figure 8, was it?
She used the figure 4.
Yeah.
Which apparently Ric Flair was famous for.
Correct. And then
Then there was a natural selection against the curtain.
She did the natural selection on the ring apron. The hardest part of the ring.
As they like to tell you all the time.
Yeah, I mean, with the wrestling ring, I suppose technically the ring apron is the outside of that square. So you've got your middle bit, then you've got your ropes, and then just sort of hanging over the edge of the ropes down at the bottom, you've got the sort of where the supports are. And technically that is the hardest part of the ring because there's no real give there.
No.
It's just solid wood, and in the corners metal. Obviously, like under the wood, there's metal as well. But even the ring itself isn't particularly. You couldn't call it soft.
No.
There is essentially sort of a big metal spring in the middle. Above that, or maybe a few springs. Above that is essentially sort of plywood, which is just thick enough that it will be able to bend and bounce, but not so thick that it won't move.
Yeah.
And obviously not so thin that it won't break. And then above that is a layer of fabric. Above that is a very thin layer of padding. I don't think it's even an inch thick.
Yeah, there's a small bit of...
Like, a lot of people think, oh, it's just like bouncing around on a trampoline. If that was your trampoline, your fucking ankles would be through your knees. It's not a comfortable working environment.
No. Natural selection on the apron, and then count out in the center of the ring.
Yeah, she rolls her in and gets the pin. Again, it wasn't the greatest finish. The natural selection looked a little bit awkward. Sometimes it can be better to do less to do more, is what I would sometimes say. Like, it seems like the women have been bigged up a lot recently, and rightly so, because they went through a long period of having awful women's wrestling, because all they hired was supermodels who were just literally hired for their looks, and wrestling ability was a far distant second. And now, not that they're not attractive, but apart from Nia Jax, who's just scary woman.
Oh my goodness.
They're higher primarily on their wrestling ability, and it definitely shows, but sometimes it feels like they're trying to keep up with the men. They're trying to do things that they shouldn't necessarily without an awful lot of practice, and it just kind of comes off that, just hold back a little bit and just practice on it a lot and then do it, make it a big thing. But yeah, I mean, like, if I was going to rate the pre-show out of 10, I'd probably give it a 6 at best. This match, 6.5, just because I know they can both do better.
Okay.
Yeah.
C+ can do better.
Yeah.
See me after class.
Yeah, it's still passing. Not bad, but just be careful.
But, work harder.
Yeah, do better.
I've seen you do better work. Yeah. There was a certain amount of this match which suffered from the soap opera effect of WWE. And the soap opera effect is the thing I'm going to call when... So, yeah, it is scripted. The result is scripted, but there's also... certain the amount of time they want it to take, certain moves that they want to put in a certain order.
Yeah.
And that kind of bullet pointing thing would be the soap opera effect. So they have a certain amount of freedom between getting those bullet points.
Yeah.
As long as they hit... Charlotte would have been told, you're going to finish with a natural selection.
Yeah.
And it's just the way that it didn't quite work into the flow of what she'd been previously doing.
Yeah.
It was a little bit jarring.
Yeah.
Not that I could have done any better.
No, absolutely.
I mean, we have this wonderful position where we can just sit here criticizing these elite performers.
Oh yeah, but as I hope I make clear at the beginning, anyone who criticizes what these people do, you
don't understand what they do.
Maybe one person who might ever listen to this could probably do anything remotely close to it. I know I couldn't, not if I trained for 10 years, I couldn't do it. And yeah, it is just from years of watching how I kind of feel about it. And obviously, I just wanted an outside perspective on how you say it. But yeah, like you say, some people, like a Charlotte and a Bailey, they'll be told how certain things are going to happen and they'll get to work in their own ideas. Some people who are like Chris Jericho, you mentioned, he would be kind of given a level of trust where, okay, you're going to win, you figure out the match.
do it, yeah.
And if he wanted to, he could just say to the other guy, right, we're just going to just do it in the ring. They won't pre-plan anything, they'll just say, right. I mean, they might just pre-plan like, right, I'm going to finish it with Code Breaker, which is Chris Jericho's one of the finishes. That's how we're going to finish it. I'm going to do it dead in the centre of the ring and I'm going to pin you. Everything else, we're just going to play it by the crowd. We're going to call it in the ring. And they'll just figure it out. And that's sort of part of the art of wrestling, is being able to kind of, under your breath and unnoticeably kind of go...
Communicate with the person you're performing with.
Exactly. You know, like, whip me into the corner, drop kick, drop down. Just being able to do that. And it's another reason why long hair can work really well.
Yeah.
Is that it'll cover your face so you
sins,
can...
yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast, I mean, he does 2 of them, but like he's talked about it on that, where he said, like, well, yeah, I used to have long blonde hair and it was really handy because if someone put me in a submission hold or a headlock, I've got the long blonde hair draped over my face and I can just say, right, this is what we're going to do next. When he was bald, he's got to learn it. He's got to basically be a ventriloquist. Yeah. He's got to be able to throw his voice. I might send you a link to what's called Botchamania, which is like the like things that go wrong in a load of different wrestling stuff. And there is a section called Everybody Talks Too Much, where you will audibly hear people saying like DDT, and you maybe don't notice it at the time, but when you see it, you go, oh wow. And I'll be honest, a lot of them are John Cena. He is really bad for it. He gets picked up a lot. It doesn't help them that there's microphones basically on every corner of that ring, and every camera's got a microphone, and they're not helped in that. But yeah, shut up, John Cena, be quiet. Go on.
The next match was the Universal Championship, no disqualification match, with a twist.
With a twist.
Now, the reason for this is the holder of the belt is Kevin Owens.
Yep.
Who basically, through fuckery, is held onto this belt for what some people think is far too long.
Underhanded shenanigans.
Shenanigans about. Like, things like just having his best friend get involved and disqualify the match.
Yeah.
His best friend being Chris Jericho, the most flamboyant 2-scarf-wearing man in wrestling.
Drink it in, man. Drink it in.
Oh, my God. He is... He's incredible.
Chris Career Renaissance Jericho. His podcasts are pretty good as well. Sometimes they can be quite on point.
He's a fantastic performer.
Yeah, he's... this could definitely be seen as one of his... I mean, he's been able to go away sometimes for years on end and come back, and he'll be just as good as he always was. He deserves to go down as one of the best sports entertainers of all time, certainly.
Sports entertainment, he definitely
what he's been able to do, he's been his character, but so many different variations, and they've all felt new and fresh, and it's been it's really good. I've always really enjoyed Chris Jericho. He's always been a personal favourite, especially the size he is to do what he's done.
Yeah.
In what used to be a real big man's world.
Yeah, if you look at him compared to some of the like people over 7 foot tall, or whatever,
oh yeah.
He's but by no means is he actually like a small man.
No, like if you compare him to a normal person, he'd be fucking huge.
Yeah, he's pretty hench, but compared to some of these guys who are
oh wow, hench, I haven't heard that in many moons.
Many moons.
Yes.
Hench like Dench, mate.
Hench. Come on.
Are you as hench as Judy Dench?
Come on, Jude.
I bet you're not. So anyway, so Kevin Owens holds his belt, and he had was it meant to be a title fight that he had with Roman Reigns previously?
Yes.
That was for the belt.
Yes.
But Chris Jericho just interfered in it far too much.
Yeah.
And so for the rules, it was the head of
Mick
SmackDown,
Foley, who is head of Raw.
Sorry, not SmackDown.
Mick Foley.
Mick Foley announced this special condition.
Yeah.
That Chris Jericho will be locked in a shark cage and suspended above the ring.
Now, there's obviously what we would normally do is said, all right, Chris Jericho is barred from ringside, he's not allowed down.
Well, they did that.
They did that, but also fairly recently, WWE released a shark cage playset, So, a ring with a shark cage.
Right, okay.
And it wasn't selling particularly well. So, on the last NXT takeover they did before the one that was prior to the Royal Rumble, there was a shark cage match in that. And also now, shark cage match in
this one, yeah.
It's good marketing. You've got to give them good marketing.
Yeah, it is good marketing.
But that's a predominant reason for it being done. There's lots of it, like, you say, right, he's barred from ringside, and what we're going to do, we're going to lock him in his dressing room.
Yeah, they could do.
But shark cages need to sell.
They barred him from ringside, and he still showed up in a mask or something and interfered with the match. So this is a no disqualifications, and with Chris Jericho locked in a shark cage.
Yeah.
And he put on a good show of not liking that.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of cries of Kevin, Kevin,
Owens, Owens.
Yeah,
shaking the bars of the cage.
Yeah, it was
fantastic.
His drama. Is such drama.
Apparently, he set himself up. He called himself the sexy pinata.
Yeah, and that
which I like.
When WWE comedy is done well, it tends to be just spur of the moment, off the cuff stuff like that. Calling himself a sexy pinata, or he's got what's called the List of Jericho, which
is that the clipboard he was carrying.
Yeah,
one of the
exactly.
shots?
Yeah,
oh
exactly.
God.
It's called the List of Jericho, and it's amazing that Chris Jericho in this run, as they call it, being back. He has managed to get wildly popular a list, the phrase "drink it in, man," and the word "it." And that's the sign of a showman.
That's
for sure. So he also he's got a metal band. He's the lead singer in Fozzy.
He does a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he's a really busy man.
I
I feel quite sorry for his family. Like, he does a podcast, he's got a band, he does a wrestling.
He doesn't like his family.
Yeah, clearly.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Just doesn't like him.
Yeah. So, the match was pretty good. I
thought it was pretty good, yeah. It was really physical. Which sounds like a weird thing to say about a wrestling match.
No, that is how wrestling matches will be described. They're just like this. You've pretty much got the terminology spot on. Definitely a physical match. It wasn't a pretty match.
Nope.
There's not a lot of flips and flops and diving around. It was
picking people up and throwing them through furniture.
Yeah, exactly. One thing with this is that Kevin Owens started basically making a structure of chairs.
That was brilliant. Well, firstly, Roman Reigns chased him out of the ring and through some of the audience and then back towards the commentators' tables and next to the side of the ring.
Yeah. And basically, any time a bad guy starts making something or putting something up, just immediately, if you watch it long enough, you go, yeah, that guy's going through that. The good guy is not going through it. The bad guy is going through it.
That's exactly what I thought. Like, he's building his own destruction here.
Yeah.
This pyramid of foldable chairs. I'm like, well, I think I see what's going to happen here.
Yeah. It's not predictable.
No, not at all. Fucking good fun when it happens.
Oh, yeah. And again, I'd like to see anybody else take that, like a normal person going through that, because they might be aluminium or aluminum.
No, they say they're steel chairs.
They say they're steel. They're not steel. They're aluminum. Going through that, like, it's still, if you catch one of the legs, aluminium in that kind of compressed form, it's fucking stiff. If that hits you, at the very least, you're going to get a badass bruise. It's not comfy.
And it's not like he threw him from ringside either. Like, Kevin Owens was on, I think he was on the top rope on the corner of the thing.
Yeah, and he's gone down from there.
And Roman Reigns just jumps up and punches him on the side of the face so that he falls down onto these chairs.
And I mean, as I was saying to you earlier, handily you could, but I did wonder, coming into the match, knowing the responses that were going to happen, whether you'd be able to tell who was the good guy and who was the bad guy based on sort of crowd reaction, just because I knew Roman Reigns, he wasn't going to get an awful lot of cheers in that audience.
No, he didn't. Well, this is the thing. I was judging it more on... Moron. I was judging it moron. I was judging
That's the end of that sentence.
And that's it. I was judging it moron. Period. Ugh. No, I was judging more on the way they presented the story. So they gave you some, the intro flashbacks of previously on Raw and all this stuff.
What is really good, the WWE's editing department, the guy who make those...
Yeah, they're really good.
They are so amazing. And
I think that's what helps make it so accessible.
Yeah. I think it was Shawn Michaels, if you remember him, in his retirement speech. He basically credited some of the editing department, saying that I wouldn't have looked nearly as good as I did if it weren't for you guys, because they can just take snippets and bits of matches and just make it look like just so good, and put a sepia tone on it, or just create these small video packages that'll really be able to sell
the storyline. Yeah. Having watched the intro and the way that it was talked about by the commentators, I was saying that Roman Reigns was the good guy. He's the guy who's meant to win this because he's been denied it so many times in the past, and people have won it through cheating. Well, not cheating, but interference and all this. And Kevin Owens, bad guy.
I'll be honest, a lot of people, me included, thought, Roman Reigns is going to win this. It was like the lock, as it were, for me, was Roman Reigns winning this, because I just couldn't see. I envisioned him going to WrestleMania with that particular title on,
but it didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen
because of
old Braun Strowman.
A little bit more bumfuckery.
Oh yeah, obviously.
See, this is the thing. The setup for it was like the way they staged the surprise was very, very good, because you had the whole match going through that ebb and flow of first Kevin Owens is kind of in command, and he's the one who's got Roman Reigns on the back foot, and it looks like he's winning. And then you've got Roman Reigns' comeback, and he's instead of being thrown through tables, he's setting up tables. And then Kevin Owens is in front of a table in the corner of a ring, and Roman Reigns is in the other corner, diagonally opposite. And he's like, right, he's just gonna spear him through that table.
Exactly.
And suddenly his legs are taken out from underneath him by someone outside the ring.
Yeah.
Who drags him out and then just chokeslams him into an announcer's table. I see. Sudden upset. And like I said, the staging of it was brilliant, because the cameras were completely focused on the ring.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you were there, you'd probably see a bit more of the setup.
Yeah, exactly. It's the benefit of the
but
television.
Like I say, the editing of it made it look like, this is going to go only one way, which is backwards through that table, instead of face first into the canvas.
Yeah. So Braun Strowman interfered, chokes him on the table, picks Roman up, throws him in the ring, running power slam through the table that was set up in the corner. Kevin Owens drapes an arm over.
Rolls over.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Again, all done. Jericho's lowered down. Everybody's happy, including the crowd.
Including the crowd, yeah.
Boy, that crowd, they don't like Roman Reigns. Then is it AJ and Cena?
No, it's the Cruiserweight Championship.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about
Which is another... Well, I think this is what they do. The way that they've set up the card is that you've got like a kind of an okay match, then a really good match, then an okay match, then a really good match.
Quite astute observation. Yeah, they will.
Because you don't want to constantly be going higher and higher. You need a break. And
exactly, yeah. It's sort of classed as like a cooling off match. However, I feel really bad for the Cruiserweights, because they had what was called the Cruiserweight Classic, where they got some exceptional wrestlers from throughout the world, and they had magnificent matches. And then they've just kind of been thrown onto Raw and TV, and they're not given storylines or anything. It's just, they're thrown out there, and it's just like, have matches.
Yeah.
And you can't expect people to get a crowd reaction with no story. You can get oohs and ahs, but if you don't build the character... You
certainly felt that in this match.
Yeah.
Like, the audience engagement wasn't quite high. And they were trying, like the commentators, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like they know some of the talking points of the match.
Yeah, they'll be given bullet points. They're getting prompts in their ear about what to talk about as well. So
particularly, like in the previous match, for example, there was a moment where Roman Reigns is thrown into the stairs that lead up to the edge of the ring.
Yeah.
And then he's attacked again by Kevin Owens with a chair. Mm-hmm. And then from that point onwards, the commentators kept on talking about how Kevin Owens had been targeting his ribs, making it difficult for him to breathe.
Yeah.
Like throwing him into the just to draw your attention to these specific points that the storyline wanted to make.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas with this one, the only storyline, like in the previous match, you've got all the kind of clips from beforehand and all that. In this one, you've not really got any previous clips of them fighting or having an argument, because there isn't any storyline.
Exactly.
And most of it is delivered by the commentators saying, Neville's got a new attitude or whatever. And what is it? Rich Swann versus Neville.
Neville, yeah.
A guy called Neville is the bad guy.
A guy called Neville, who's from Newcastle.
He's built like a Dorito.
He's got a face like a Dorito.
Oh, yeah, he does.
His ears are huge.
Yeah, he's got massive ears.
He's not a handsome
He's got the
chap.
long black hair, but his shoulders are fucking huge.
Oh, yeah. He's broad-shouldered and skinny-waisted.
Yeah.
he's like the ideal woman. He's got a huge upper body. Like you've got massive pecs.
You're like a broad-shouldered
like a broad-shouldered woman with a teeny tiny waist. The hope is that he'll be able to kind of carry it now because he's been on the roster so long, and he's been allowed to talk on the microphone a bit. Like I say, he's from Newcastle as well. So when he first came in, whoa! I don't think
The
Americans
were like, what?
yeah, just like right man, I'm gonna go do some wrestling.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go do some flips and shit. And you could just see him looking at him like, what is he Australian? I don't understand what he's saying.
Is that English?
Is he from Czechoslovakia? And he's obviously now, it's why if you ever see him talking on the microphone, he'll talk a lot slower, a lot more deliberately to help them understand.
And this is
just to go back to the Kevin Owens Roman Reigns match, 8 out of 10. I feel absolutely really adequate for that. This one, I'll be honest, I skipped through quite a lot of it because part of the enjoyment of wrestling is the crowd interaction. Just hearing them so dead really annoyed me because both of these guys are really good and what they can do is really good.
Athletically, like there are lots of jumps and aerial maneuvers.
Yeah.
And flips and shit.
But again, if you're not giving the people a reason to care.
There was one particularly nice moment of audience interaction which I quite liked.
Yeah.
Was when they let's talk firstly. What's the championship advantage or champion advantage?
Champion's advantage.
This is. I'm presuming this means that you can only be defeated if you're inside the ring.
If it's a normal match, just one-on-one, then yeah, the only way that you can lose your championship, your title, whatever you want to call it, is either by being pinned for the 3 count or being submitted tapping out.
But inside the ring.
Yeah, if you were to be counted out, so where you're outside the ring and the referee counts to 10, you'll keep your championship. If you were to be disqualified, in both cases you still lose the match, but you keep your championship.
Right.
Yeah.
So this got mentioned a couple of times during previous matches because there's belts on the line or whatever. And there was one for this as well, which Rich Swann was the champion to begin with. So they kept mentioning the championship advantage and why Neville needed to keep getting him back into the ring. Mm. So when they're outside the ring at some point, he gets thrown into the barricade at the towards the audience, and there was some kids there cheering along. And there's one kid who's leaning over, "Come on, Rich, you can do it! Get up, Rich, you got this! You got him!" And over comes Neville, like picks him up and throws him back towards the ring. Obviously, he said something to the kid because the kid just before the camera pans away, he goes, "Come back here and tell me to shut up. You got this, Rich. Come on." Oh, that's amazing. This kid's like 7 or something. And he's just telling off this guy who's about 4 times his size. The size, like the
certainly
width
4
of a
times
house.
broader.
4 times broader, definitely, yeah. And like I just wonder what was going through Neville's head because he's a performer and he's playing the bad guy in this situation. And this kid just tells him to shut up, and he's like, does he just want to turn around and lamp him?
I think the thing is, like, probably one of the best bits of fan interaction, going back to Chris Jericho, is I think it was an episode of SmackDown, and he's thrown his opponent back into the ring, and from the crowd, you just hear, "Go back to Toronto," and Chris Jericho, just as he's going back in the ring, just flips his head back around and goes, "I'm from Winnipeg, idiot!" And gets back in the ring. And it is, it's things like that.
I'm from Winnipeg, bitch!
a good match, but disappointing that, they're just not... I hope it kind of gets developed on. They've got their own show, which is called 205 Live, which is, again, kind of it's an underbranch of WWE, which kind of is in this weird middle ground between Raw and SmackDown and NXT, because it's not... they'll appear... everywhere, the crossover everywhere, but that is recorded after SmackDown ends. So with SmackDown, it's a 2-hour show, so people have already seen 2 hours of wrestling, and then it's a brand new show with brand new people who aren't given a story, and people are expected to care, and you can just see the audience being tired and quiet, and it doesn't help build into anything. No.
So you're hoping they develop storylines and characters for that a bit better.
With NXT, what they do is they block record. So they'll record 4 weeks of TV in one sort of day. So it's 4 hours. So it's the same crowd. The same performers will keep coming in and out. Yeah. So what you see is 3 different matches. Those people see those guys wrestle 3 times. Yeah. In that particular crowd where NXT wrestles is also like a lot more fervent and a lot more hardcore, as it were. If you put 205 live in that environment, it's gonna feel a lot better because they want to see it. They're not, it's not a bunch of tired kids and annoyed parents. They're just like, look, I just want to fucking go home. We've sat through this fake fighting shit for 2 hours now.
Got another 40-minute drive home.
I don't want to see people flipping about, pretending to fight some more, and I don't understand them.
Was that your exasperated parent?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But yeah, this match, in terms of ability, probably 7.5.
Yeah,
I'd
they
say.
were some good technical stuff going on.
For the spectacle, again, I'd probably go down to 6.5 because of the audience. And again, it's not the wrestlers' fault. It's the overseers.
They're doing their best, bless them.
Neville won.
Neville did win, so now apparently he was self-styled king of the cruiserweights. Now he's actually being crowned. Now we get to the second main event.
AJ Styles and John Cena.
Even as somebody who's not really involved in watching wrestling, I know John Cena.
Yeah.
Mostly through internet memes.
Yeah.
I know.
And his name.
Is
Sein Johnna. Yeah.
His name is Sein Johnna. Bring on the trumpets. And yeah, AJ Styles. I've even heard his name. Because his storyline is kind of interesting. Because he'd been in other federations and other federated fighting championships and whatever.
Yeah.
But I not really I'd heard the news. The headline was AJ Styles comes to the WWE.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, cool. So presumably he's someone we know about.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't know about him.
Yeah.
So he's
I feel there's a reason to care.
He's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Was what the headline was saying.
Yeah.
And then he's been there for a year this year. Now he's been there for a year and basically just kicked everybody's butt.
Ish. He wasn't. He had a lot of losses in the first few months, but he was allowed to develop. And there's a reason that everybody considers him the greatest wrestler on the planet right now because
he's winning.
He is. It's between him and a guy called Kenny Omega who wrestles in Japan. Yeah, that AJ Styles came from Japan. He wrestled in America for many years, first in WCW, then Ring of Honor, then TNA, then back to Ring of Honor and New Japan, and then from there he came to WWE. And nobody ever really thought it was going to happen because there was lots of talk earlier on in his career, but he was always worried that he wouldn't be treated right. Yeah,
so there's lots of talk and the storyline, the build-up was, it's his freshman year at WWE, and he said he was going to come here and win the championship. He said he was going to beat all these people. He said he was going to do all these things, and he has done.
Yeah, he backed it up.
Yeah,
and he beat John Cena 3 times. And if you're unfamiliar with the history of John Cena, for John Cena to lose, and to lose what's called cleanly, so being either pinned or submitted and not having any outside interference, which AJ Styles did, that is considered a big thing because
John Cena is the big name.
Yeah,
WWE was sold on John Cena.
Yeah, he's the modern Hulk Hogan or Stone Cold.
He's like the poster boy.
Yeah, he's the shining beacon that sells all the merchandise. Basically, he's the cash cow.
You can't sell a cage, but he can sell you a multicolored T-shirt.
Oh yeah. But this match was they've not put on a bad match, and it probably wasn't the best one they've done, but it was the best match of the night, and it deserved to be where it was. You can say AJ Styles is a great wrestler, and John Cena is a bad wrestler, but watching them together, John Cena is only a bad wrestler if he's given a bad opponent, and vice versa. If you're given someone bad to work with, you've either got to be absolutely brilliant to make them look good, or you're both just going to look terrible.
You're both going to be dragged down.
John Cena isn't the best wrestler in the world, but he's really upped his game, and AJ Styles is the best wrestler in the world, and that's why it was so brilliant. Coming to AJ Styles' finisher, which is called the Styles Clash.
Is that the one where he hooked his legs? Oh, he was holding him upside down.
Yeah. So the opponent's legs. So you're picking them up upside down. So their head facing outwards between your legs, their legs
over your shoulders,
draped over your shoulders, then hooking your legs
over their arms.
Exactly. So they're kind of restrained like that, flexing position, and you then fall forward It's not even a very good finisher, and I've never liked it. However, like there has been cases of people breaking their neck in it.
I was going to say, looking at that, it's
sort of one of the first things that you're taught in wrestling is tuck your head, because that's how you cushion the blow. You're not going to smack your head. With this, you have to do the opposite. You've got to hold your head right back so it's not going to come in contact with the canvas. And I've physically seen someone have their neck broken by this move, and it is the scariest thing in the world. Like watching someone's neck bend under their body, their chin touching their chest, and thinking, "Oh my God, are they dead?"
That's completely wrong.
Luckily, the guy that we saw it happen to, he did turn out. He was back within a year, and he was very, very lucky. And I'll be honest, AJ Styles was kind of a dick about it. He went on Chris Jericho's podcast and he said, "Well, it was that guy's fault. Why did he tuck his head?" And you just think, fucking hell, mate.
All you need to do is say, "I'm glad that he's all right."
Yeah.
And then you don't come across as being a dick.
Yeah. But he's broken other people's necks with it. And in a way, I can see where he's coming from with it, because they should know to tuck it. But at the same time, due care and attention. The guy called James Ellsworth, who was in the Royal Rumble later on, he nearly did the same to him on a WWE show. And what he had to do was essentially kind of land on his knees to make sure he didn't kill him.
Yeah.
And he was doing it outside the ring as well.
Oh God.
On like the thinner padding, and it's not something to be taken lightly.
It looks like that one looks like a deadly maneuver.
Yeah, but that's just it. As a finisher, it looks awful, but at the same time, it's like you could really get hurt.
Yeah, you could get seriously hurt on that one.
I much prefer like his phenomenal forearm. At least that looks like you're getting hit in the face with someone's forearm. That'd knock you out. This, the guy is falling forward, rolling over, and pinning you. It's just never looked good.
Like another quite really physical match.
Yeah.
Not as much as the previous one, I think.
Yeah.
But when you consider that both these men weigh 250 pounds each.
Well, AJ Styles is probably about 220. John Cena is getting near
260.
He's getting near the 260, 270 mark. And it's pure muscle. Like he's a big guy. He's a powerlifter guy. Yeah.
And I mean, there was a lot of throws and body slams. They did a little bit of some submissions as well, and there was a pretty impressive one where AJ Styles gets John Cena into like an arm bar submission.
Yeah.
And basically, John Cena just picks him up using that arm.
Yeah.
And then slams him into the canvas.
Yeah. That's big match, Johnny. It's the stories that these guys have told have been really good. This John Cena winning here was his 16th. Championship world title, which the story is that Ric Flair also held 16 world titles. However, it depends how you judge that, because chances are he actually held an awful lot more. But the story is now that John Cena's tied that record, and
the setup for the John Cena story was brilliant, because they had some footage from, like you were saying before about the editors.
Yeah.
They had the footage from his previous fight with AJ Styles, where he was defeated.
Yeah.
I think it was SummerSlam. And he's just sat in the middle of the ring at the end of it. He takes his armbands off, and the sad Keanu meme. Yeah. This was sad John Cena. Just sat there. He looked like a big toddler, like the way he was sat with his legs out in front of him.
Yeah.
So sad to have been defeated.
Oh, and Rabadu. Do.
Oh, no more do.
Turns out they could see me. Aww.
So they played a lot on the "Never Give Up" slogan of his and all that, and they painted him as this classy sportsman. Like at the end of the fight when he wins, and he gets up and he thanks the audience, and even if it's scripted, it's still a nice thing for the fans. Like when he goes into the audience to meet that kid, that's still a nice moment.
Well, that's the thing. John Cena, up until fairly recently, has received a lot of boos because, for the same reason that Roman Reigns does, he was seen as kind of the chosen one by the company, not someone who earned it. Recently, like doing the matches with AJ Styles, a lot more fans have got behind. Well, male fans, kids and women have always kind of loved both of them, but male fans still hate Roman Reigns, but they're really coming out on John Cena because he's showing that he wants to, do more. He wants to do John Cena the wrestler or John Cena the character, yeah, fair enough, he might be a little bit cheesy and stuff. John Cena the person is arguably the greatest man in the world. He's the granter of the most Make-A-Wish wishes by double the amount of the next person.
The commentators mentioned he's done over 500.
Yeah, and that's not just like, oh, hey, how you doing? I'm John Cena. Hope you don't die. Bye. That's like spending a day with a kid and their family. Like,
or in this case, he presumably, I'm guessing he brought that kid to ringside.
Well, that kid will probably be invited by WWE, but yeah, he'll have had.
And then when he wins, he just goes out there and he meets this kid who's wearing a Make-A-Wish t-shirt.
Yeah,
has a photo taken, gives him like the pep talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Memento from the match, one of his armbands or something.
If you were a managing director or whatever a company, he would be the guy who you would want doing anything because. Yeah, I don't think he takes days off.
No.
He's gone away to do TV shows and movies and stuff. But if Vince McMahon said to him, John, I need you to eat 3 tons of shit today, just for the sake of it, he'd probably do it. And I think that's what got...
If I think he'd need a reason.
I don't know if he would. And I think that's what maybe got him a lot of grief for a long time, is because it seemed like he wasn't questioning what he was told to do. But now he's showing his ability and his willingness to what's called put other people over. So being willing to lose cleanly and take a pinfall and make someone else look good. And that's what it's taken to get fans back on his side. And I'm quite happy that he is, because, you know, in the end, he's going to deserve what he gets, and he's going to go into their Hall of Fame. And he
should do, I think. Yeah. Just being involved with your fans, I think, goes a long way.
Absolutely, yeah. And obviously, like, you know, if you're a bad guy, you can't, or you shouldn't really be doing that.
You don't really get the same kind of thing.
You know, you're the bad guy. Yeah. But John Cena was put in a position where he didn't have to do any of this stuff. He could just be like, well, yeah, no, I'm the top guy in the company. I'm not going to do anything else. Sod it. Yeah. But he kind of took it upon himself to do all this, and he is the kind of guy who like could be something like a UN ambassador or something, because he's genuinely seems like a really very good human being in terms of stuff he does.
Absolutely.
In terms of this match, again, really good match. 8.5 out of 10 probably. It's room for improvement, but
good 8. A solid 8, I reckon.
Man, yeah.
Oh, both these men gave a solid 8, I think.
Solid 8s. Right.
Which is kind of sad, because the championship belt that John Cena literally just won like a week and a half ago is up for grabs this Sunday.
Yeah, they have a real
2 weeks.
They have a real congestion problem because of the split in things. They upped their pay-per-view, so it's like sometimes you can have 2 in a month. It takes it out of you. Again, watching so much stuff, it's overkill. Just they need to learn again. Less can be more sometimes. Build things up and let it ruminate. Come on, guys. I know I'm talking about this like it's some
You're
kind
talking
of
about wrestling there. You're talking about wrestling, not making love to anything.
Yeah.
Less is more. Let it build up.
And then shoot you on.
And then that wonderful ending here. So do you reckon they're going to write it so that he loses the belt, or do you think it's going to be a close call?
The theory is, and I would probably go along with it, based on the outcome of the Royal Rumble, which we'll get into next, that John Cena will lose his title to Bray Wyatt, and that will develop into a storyline going into WrestleMania. And
is this because in WrestleMania, the person who holds the WWE Championship is going to be one of the title fights?
Yeah, there's obviously, like, theoretically they could lose it, you know, on SmackDown, and anything can happen. In the WWE, it can't. That won't happen. But, like, the idea of the Royal Rumble is the winner gets a title match at WrestleMania against whoever the champion is.
Right, okay. So you think they're setting up for a specific match?
Yeah, and that will, generally speaking, it will kind of be who's the champion at the Rumble, just for being able to build up that story, but...
Yeah.
The way that the story is going to work, I think he's going to lose it, which is ultimately seems pointless because you've given him this kind of milestone, which not a lot of people want him to reach. And if he's going to lose the belt within 3 weeks, it's a bit of
a kick in the teeth.
Yeah, it is what it is. That's wrestling, guys.
That's wrestling. And we'll get into that other storyline in a second, because now it is time for the Royal Rumble.
Glorious! No, I won't give in till I'm victorious.